good people, and welcome back to part 17 of Ilos and modded Cities Skylines build. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much indeed for all the support on the stream over the weekend, where we're continuing to put together what is a very kind of copy and paste commercial design in America, but in Cities Skylines we can have lots of fun with these. And look at this, right? Isn't this the best? Just frontage road on road action. It makes me so happy. This is the best thing about modded cities. It's just the best. So good to see these sort of like finer, more intricate networks starting to develop around the Mars grid frame now. So we introduced kind of an office depot, a Target, a Walmart. Okay, we've seen these assets in and around Ilos before. Also brought in the official park as an official park, right? And sort of bobbed the trees off and let the road wrap around it. Big fan of this. Thought that was quite nice. Lots of wide American car parking vibes, and then we also detailed the most wonderful little green cities flea market where we've got people passing through now, bringing through the trees, so just a little bit of finagling with Move It, and some of the favourite green cities assets can just make an enormous difference, right? So this is essentially vanilla. It's amazing. And then some more sort of market vibes over here, and then tents and the usual green city spices that we are so fond of. We've also begun to introduce Ilos's first alien covens as we head into the mountains to find the original crash site, where they have landed, where they have actually kidnapped a Nefarious snowman and are holding him at gunpoint as he tries to escape from the crash. And of course he's pleading with them to let him back into the ship because the Nefarious snowman does not belong under this glare, right? So he could melt. So yeah, lots of little prop detail like this, and we also dropped in our light as well. So yeah, just great, right? A little alien crash site now, so we'll definitely start bringing in more alien covens around Ilos, especially during the streams. And during the cinematics today, I will leave a little sort of cinematic compilation of all the alien covens that we dropped in over the weekend. However, in today's episode, we are nearing the completion of the Mars grid project. Only a few more things to do now. I will definitely come back here for another episode, and obviously some stream jobs still need to be tidied up in kind of these more awkward, empty, smaller spaces. But it is filling out now. It's nearly complete, and that means after that, we can head downtown. So not far away, right? I'm going to continue to tease you all, as always. But today, we're going to work on quite a fun build, not really sort of a mass expansion or trying to meet any demands. We are going to be working on a Nevada-style, sort of Area 51-inspired secret military airbase, where there is some questionable happenings, including claims of UFO sites. Also, the butter doesn't melt here either. The milk never spoils, and the science never fails. The tumbleweeds don't blow, and the saguaros have no spines on them. So lots of unnatural happenings happening out here, okay? This is going to be Ilos's sort of Mass Effect reference, right? In Novaria we had Peak 15, and in Ilos we will have the conduit. But of course, when we're working with such a unique build like this, we need to find some kind of inspiration. So let's head over to Google Earth, shall we? And welcome everyone to the first time to Nevada. We are actually leaving Arizona for once to come into the Nevada mountain range, where we can see a little airstrip here. So for those that don't know, this is actually Homey Airport, or which is probably known to most of us as Area 51. A military airbase, right? Famously secretive as to what goes on here. That's gone on over the years and still continues to go on. But we can definitely take some inspiration from this, okay? Whilst we might not have this kind of big, what I'm assuming is a salt lake, it kind of looks like that, or maybe it's just sort of a dust bowl, not entirely sure, but there's vibes out here, okay? But we can take inspiration. There's a couple of runways, some taxiway inspiration here as well, like a little hangar there too. And lots of open desert space is also a vibe out here as well, which is going to help us fill a decent chunk of space in Ilos too. Okay, then heading into the actual base itself, we can see indeed the taxiways are actually spilling up right onto the road here. So again, we can really get involved with some of this stuff. Looks to be some sort of repeated barracks or warehouses, also a helicopter pad. Some parked planes too, and we've got some nice sort of futuristic jet props off of the workshop today to play with. And then furthermore, into the foothills of the surrounding mountains, there's also some installations. Looks to be some sort of like scrapyard or sort of junk vibes. And then kind of a little bit further out, there's almost what appears to be kind of either little stations or possibly bunkers. Not entirely sure. Not been to Area 51. But you can get an impression, okay? And then actually heading further west here, across the mountain ranges, we arrive at the Nevada test range, which is an incredibly interesting thing to see. All this sort of practice shelling, right? And some of these craters are absolutely enormous, incredibly deep, and butt wash as well. Just in case your ass is dirty, then that you can get it fixed. Get it fixed there. All right, cool. So really interesting landscapes, and we can definitely sort of bring some of these vibes in with simple terraforming tools. But definitely head onto Google Earth and have a look at this place. It's fascinating. Just craters everywhere in the Nevada test range, with a road going right the way through it. Yeah, really cool landscapes to be working with. But at the end of the day, it's inspiration for us. Let's see what we can do with a top secret military air force base in Ilos, shall we? So we're going to start expanding our road network out because we're building so far out into the desert today. And we're going to come back to the diamond interchange that we built many moons ago now, where we have Highway Turtle and sort of Highway Sun, and Highway Ant, I guess, right? Whatever that is. So let's go into our rural roads, and we're playing with this one here today, which is the 2-lane country road, which is very much going to be the vibe that I'm after for sort of a nice rural road that just comes through the desert. And we're going to have to pass over the dried riverbed, of course, which will be fine. Let's do a nice 30 tile unit there, and then we can force back down to ground again. And then we can start getting some nice big curves as we come over this way. So I very much want some West Virginia vibes out here today for kind of country roads take me home, right? This is kind of a very stereotypical Southwest American thing, right? These big, long, straight stretches of road that span through the desert. So we want to make sure that this is a vibe that we bring into Ilos, and lots of nature reserve fencing to be had along these as well, alongside some larger rocks. So I think we're going to come basically just towards the foot of the mountains, and then we'll start getting in some sweeping curves. Now this road here will definitely feed probably back into the downtown as well, and anything that lies over this way. But for right now, it's going to give us sort of a branch as where we can start to build the conduit. So just create a little T-junction here. Again, a little bit of node controller can be nice here, which we can save for our detailing time-lapse, of course. And at this point here, we can now start playing with some of our assets. So I actually have a security checkpoint downloaded. This is like a sort of perfect asset, really, as a main gate into the area. Imagine there would be a strong military presence here. Indeed, a little police car too, which is nice. I'm going to do a little drive around. I think I'm going to upgrade these into the one-way industrial roads, of course, unlocking the networks with multi-tool. I've actually missed a couple there. Let's grab those two sections as well. Cool. So I think the little yellow bollards that actually come with the industrial road will help us just bring home some slight vibes a little bit easier. Okay. Of course, electricity will be brought into the area via our favourite rural power lines, of course. And then we can carry out the other side of the security checkpoint now. And then this is where we can start to actually look at the main build itself. Again, lots of long straight roads, and then we can start to plan out what we want to do here. So because we're working with an airport's DLC airport today, the biggest things that are going to be taken up with this build are the runways and the taxiways. So we just want to make sure that we give ourselves enough room for those. So we'll give ourselves a fairly large airport area for the time being. There we go. And of course, this is going to be called the conduit, named after Mass Effect, of course. So I think we're going to run with the classic airport terminal. It's going to be the most appropriate. I haven't managed to find any sort of other ones on the workshop that might be more military themed. If there is any, please feel free to link them to me below, and we can always switch it out. But for the time being today, we're going to place in our airport here. Now we'll bring off a road guideline snap point for our runway, so we're remaining somewhat parallel with the main terminal. And then let's go for this one right here. So I think I'm going to be playing with 2 runways today. I'm going to start this one right out here, making sure we're snapping to the angle, of course. Let's go for, let's kind of gauge where we're looking at here. Let's go for maybe 200 units. Okay, that's going to be great. And then the other airport is kind of staggered. It's going to come out from this way. We're going to leave ourselves, let's come over the road anarchy as well. 20 units between the 2 runways, I think. That's going to be acceptable. So we'll try bringing some different shapes, and of course actually take inspiration from the shape of the taxiways that are actually sat in Area 51, okay? We can again do something similar here. Let's go for sort of a little 10 unit mooch, and bring this one down, and get some nice angles in. And of course just make sure that our airports and runways are configured in the correct directions. So now we can bring these down. Again, we'll leave 20 units, or possibly 30 units of space actually, because again we've got lots of almost like bunker and prop detailing to do between the runways and the base itself. So they're going to be happy with that. That's giving enough respect to the runways. These things are the sort of most important aspect of the build today. And as with all our builds, it's important that we keep checking for more angles, even with a build like this. And I think that's really given us a sense of distance, isn't it? You know, these real sort of narrow country roads coming out through the desert. And you just sort of see what's over there, but nobody knows, right? It's all a little bit of secret sauce. Cool. So let's come back into Network Multi-Tool, and then we'll replace the networks within the airport road itself. So we'll unlock these, and then go for a touch of Industrial Road, I think, again. Just going to be the sort of the vibe that I'm after today. Lock both segments, and then we can start bringing off these roads as to where we want them to come. Okay, again, some initial holding frames are going to help us settle in a little bit easier. So I'm actually thinking, on second thought, we run with the cargo terminal instead of the passenger one. Because at least then the vehicles that will come and go from this area will actually be sort of slightly military themed, I guess. We can use, I guess, some of the mods to actually change out the vehicles that come in, but advanced vehicle options was giving me an error last time. So we'll see. But yeah, I think I'm feeling the cargo airport terminal a little bit more, so let's get this switched out for the passenger one instead. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling that. And then this is going to allow us to start using the medium cargo airport roads too. So we can bring this up and across, and then let's start placing some of those larger cargo aircraft stands. Yeah, definitely like some of these. So again, checking your inspiration as to where the terminals seem to be located is going to be helpful. So always fun to be creative with the use of the airports DLC stuff. Going to be happy with this. Let's grab our taxiways now. Hopefully start getting some people hooked in and seeing some cargo planes arrive indeed. Let's see what we can do. So again, the taxiways can sometimes be a bit finicky. Sometimes just breaking them and then snap into a road guideline is fine. And then why don't we break this corner and bring in an angle? At least then we know we're snapped to that 90-degree sort of snap, which is going to help us keep some sort of sensible symmetry design here. Again, I think I'm happy with this, and why don't we factor in perhaps some sort of air control tower here if we like. And I think we'll also run a parallel taxiway this way also. Yep, let's go for that. So we'll snap this onto a corner. Again, I think it's going to be slightly more appropriate than the airport DLC. Air control towers, this one is actually called a military one, so we'll finagle this in. And of course, where we want today's surface paint is going to be massively helpful for building these airport areas out with lots of concrete, but we do want to remember to actually save some sand as well. And again, there's probably some of our sort of high-tech military jets that we can use here. So again, you know, the Ilos sort of scientists here, and, you know, developing sort of the next generation of sort of aircraft. They're not just sort of bog standard fighter jets and A-10s. These are sort of real, sort of amazing jets, right? And we can start to play with, you know, perhaps some really cool repeated jet spies. I think these are actually from Ace Combat. So a shout out to the Ace Combat fans if there's any of us watching. Okay, and we can get a few of these clustered around the sort of concrete spaces too. We've even got some of these military guard towers as well, which will be sort of great around the perimeter. Maybe some would work in the airfield as well. It's all about experimenting, right? I do love the fact that a civilian has just driven into the area and now looks like they're being escorted out by a police car. That's great, isn't it? That she made a wrong turn coming in. I don't even know what she's doing over here. She works at the Liberal Arts Dome. Or is a student there anyway. Yeah, so being escorted out, which is good, right? Cool. Somewhat realistic. So just slightly reworked my airport configuration here. I brought in some snapped angles so it's not just sort of massively boxed off. And same over here as well. So I believe this cargo airport is going to remain relatively quiet just because it's so out of the way for the time being until a significant industrial area pops up around this part of town. I believe the AI is going to prefer to import via the Margrid cargo station over here, which is yet to be developed, but is currently functioning, or the highways, because they're sort of closer and easier to get to for transporting cargo than an actual cargo airport all the way out here. But that will eventually change as we come to add industrial builds, oil refineries, and those sorts of stuff, ore mines and whatnot. So speaking of oil, I actually want to start having a look at how we can integrate some oil into the area now. So I think I'm actually going to move down into a one-way industrial system here. And let's just start bringing out some initial frames. We'll go for 40 by 40. Okay. And this should give us roughly what I'm after. Okay. And then I also want to box off this airport road here as well. Let's go for that. Let's do one up that way, and then we can trim off those ones there. Cool. I'll just round out our airport nicely. And what it looks like we actually do have, again in sort of Area 51, is there's sort of roads right up against the taxiways. So with Anarchy and no road guideline, we can form this. Hopefully without it looking too weird, maybe just a touch shorter than that. Again, that could lead to some slight wing clipping of the cargo planes that come in, so we'll go for 2 tiles distance. That's going to be fine. And then this is great, we can carry on constructing our areas now. So there's definitely lots of warehouses around here, so we can certainly squeeze in some of these. I definitely go for some large warehouses within the one-way loop. Let's have them here, and again factoring in their orientation as to how they're going to sit within the main build itself. Okay, I think I'm actually probably feeling this on a slightly different orientation. Okay, so let's bring another little holding road through here, and we can spin our large warehouse around. Let's give him a little finagle as we come over to the side. Yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Then in terms of what we want to store here, I'm probably just going to say commercial zone goods for the minute. Because the only industrial area we have in Ilos so far is actually the farmlands out here. Which again, they're right next to the highway, so any imports and exports are just going to go straight out rather than going all the way out here. Which I guess is a downside, but it will eventually resolve itself as the city grows, I think. And it's something we can get on board with. So furthermore to warehouses, which again we'll carry on placing, looking at the oil industry stuff, it does look as though there's some kind of silos and also what looks to be repeated oil industry barracks. These ones are going to work quite nicely, or we can also go for the ore industry ones. Now again, I think it's a decision of which do we prefer, isn't it? Yeah, I think I'm feeling the ore just because they feel quite military, you know? So that's fantastic. Let's grab that industrial area then, because we are going to need to paint this out so we can place them in. I'll just give it a little squiggle. We'll of course tidy it up. I know this is going to trigger Eggsy certainly with his super neat districts, but I think it's worth it for the aesthetic payoff that's going to happen here. Wonderful. So let's dive into the world of ore, and then we can grab our ore industry worker barracks here. Okay, so we're definitely going to want to bob this as well. Let's come in and remove the trees and bushes. Yeah, let's get rid of that tree as well. That does look a bit weird, doesn't it? We'll definitely have to come and do some of our own tree detailing today as well. Probably palms, cactus will be the most appropriate. Okay. So, again, we're seeing sort of back-to-back, very heavily repeated patterns of these sorts of things. Again, within Area 51, of course. So, let's have a little look at what we can do to possibly accommodate this idea and come up with some kind of measurement for it. Yeah, so they are almost in like perfect little back-to-back squares. I think that's what we're going to go for. So with that in mind, let's mend the frame. to box in the warehouse. Also bring this back out this side too. And then this is where we can start to accommodate some of these ideas. So I'm not entirely sure what these are. You would imagine it's some sort of accommodation for the soldiers on duty, right? Just sort of very simple military barracks. But I think I am going to maybe change up the road here. Maybe even to a car parking service road. Just because we are seeing quite a lot of black asphalt in Area 51, so it's certainly part of the vibe. There's lots of different roads, actually. There's sort of black asphalt, there's lots of dirt and sand roads as well, alongside sort of typical grey roads like this, so it's not just one network suits all, you know? And this is what we're working with, so I think I'm just going to get in a repeated pattern of these, and see what we think of it, and see how it settles into the wider build. So I think that I am on board with this, right? It kind of hammers home some slight barrack vibes, doesn't it? So I think I'm going to enjoy it. Very much on board with it. Of course, once it's detailed, we'll fit in a little more organically. And then why don't we pop in another little warehouse here as well? So we can squeeze in a small one near perfectly. And again, we'll get it to store some commercial goods. So again, like we saw in Google Earth, we can see that the sort of taxiways almost extend down sort of into the facility and right up alongside some of the infrastructure. So that's definitely something I want to bring into this build as well. So we'll go for that, and then let's start bringing in some of the large hangars. Okay, I think I'm happy with that, but of course we want them actually facing sort of the main airstrip, so now we've got it in. We can just do that and then give it a little flip around, so we know that we're okay. Cool, and then we'll do the same thing again, just directly behind. And then of course, a little bit of service paint is going to help just flesh out their vibe a little bit. Okay, I can definitely get on board with that. Now, again, like we mentioned, we can also see some sort of like slightly small looking buildings that do actually look as though they're sort of the oil industry storage units. So again, we're going to see if we can perhaps squeeze some of these in, again, using Anarchy to bring the road network right up close to the taxiways. Okay, and again, we'll provide something of an initial frame. Get these hooked in as well so we can complete the one-way loop. Cool, so let's dive into the world of oil industry. Now we've got a couple of options available to us. So we could go for the big sort of crude oil farms, but don't think we want to go for that. I think we're just going to use some of these ones here, some oil industry storage. Again, I think we'll pop these onto a dirt road now, just to start changing up those road networks that we're seeing in real life. So we can possibly bring in a little dirt frame here. Start back into the oil. Let's go for a couple of these. We'll also bring a road in between and squeeze in one of the other storage units as well. Cool. Let's go for 3 of these. So these will store oil as a natural resource. That's going to be fine. And let's start breaking away from that kind of very rigid grid pattern. And go for a couple of these buildings in here as well. Again, I think a touch of the sort of sand surface painter here now, just to help get rid of a little bit of that concrete. So we do want concrete in some places, but not everywhere today. It's going to help those dirt roads blend in a little bit more, so it kind of doesn't look like an actual road. It's more just like sort of open sandy desert where there is infrastructure knocking about. Again, important that we keep checking from all angles and the vibe is maintaining into what we like here. Let's come back into the world of airports and start having a look at some possible airport props. We'll definitely park up some large cargo planes on the side here as well. Yeah, definitely on board with those. Well, there we go. We finally have a plane arriving at the cargo airport. Cool. So I wonder if that's because we've just had the addition of some nearby industry. So because these are going to store oil, I guess now they will actually want to export some oil as well. No, he has, yeah, he's actually landed, hasn't he? Okay. That's good though, I'm happy with that. And they almost kind of look like military transport planes as well, don't they? So with the big 4-engine boys. See which runway he's going to use. Yeah, he's going to go back onto the second one, that's great. I'm happy with that, and there he goes. Cool, so at least we will see the runways active today at least, that's going to be good news. I'm seeing a lot of these commercial good vehicles starting to come into play now as well, which I'm happy with. Okay, so I think also today a lot of the natural disaster assets are going to be our friend, especially the small emergency shelters for bringing in some sort of silos or bunkers, whatever we saw on Google Earth, you know, whatever they are, that's what we can go for. And I think what we'll do at this point here is bring in perhaps a little sort of marked nice roundabout, but we'll worry about that at a later date. Of course, we're just working with our initial frames at the minute. So we'll initially use Industry Road and then we'll move back down into some dirt. And then we'll start coming off straight roads now and doing a little bit more freeform stuff. And let's start heading just into the foothills here, not too high up the mountain. Alright, and I think what's going to work nicely is the small emergency shelters. So we can discuss how we can use detailing with these. Of course, we want to bob away that little tiny tree. That looks amazingly out of place here. Again, some surface painter with the gravel texture is way too much. Let's change the brush size there. There we go. So again, just to get rid of the concrete. And we also want to come into terrain as well. And I just soften out a little bit of the initial jank where the shelter is going to sit, just so it's not got that enormous cutaway on it. So these guys will of course need power lines, but I think I'm happy with that. And then we've even got some of these little, what are they called? Military shed storage, although he is a little bit high up there, isn't he? Yeah, so we can bring some of these in, and then we can also dive into the wonderful world of industrial props, and definitely lots of sort of freight containers around here will be nice too. But there isn't really that much out here in these sort of silos. They are just very much sort of isolated little installations for which I'm sure a sort of boxed in road network around them, and then we'll grab every node with move it. We're going to set a height for everyone to come back down to this level. Okay, and then we can bring these over. Give this a little spin as well so we're not so rigidly straight. Bend out some of these roads as well. Okay, different angles and orientations here. Touches of surface painter. And again, just some lighter desert grasses in this area are going to be a huge complement to the build as well, for which we can have a brief look at. Okay, let's dive into our smaller trees and then sort of scroll down towards where we've got our favourite little grasses in this point. Yeah, so lots of these around the edge. You imagine these lands are not remotely maintained. It's very much left for the desert to reclaim around where the installations lie. Okay, and of course we will avoid triggering the Arizona locals and include some saguaros in here too. And we can even start looking at bringing in some slight security checkpoint vibes if we like, and I think then combined with a touch of chain link fencing, of course with the prop line tool and a fence mode with the linear fence fill, we can just bring in some little secure vibes around the back here. We want to make sure that anarchy is on too. Okay, bring these around and then just let them sit where the checkpoint starts. Of course, again, little bits of softening as we come back around to the base are going to help rid a little bit of the nastiness away and help this sort of installation settle in a little bit more just by itself. I would like to discuss the possibility of palms, but I do think they're going to be quite out of place here, aren't they? Yes, I think they are. And I don't think just a little splash of vanilla industry would go amiss either, especially some of the silo ones. Also, we just want to make sure that we're not sort of clashing with any heavy road networks. Okay, bring these around. We can just use move it and customize these little sort of bunker spaces now that can lie as sort of orbital sites around the main base itself, again like we're seeing in Google Earth, okay? There's lots of different combinations we can do for this as well. There we go, looks like a ton of oil trucks are arriving. They will certainly be importing Yes, there's another cargo plane as well. Wonderful. That's made me incredibly happy. I was so worried that the cargo planes wouldn't come out here. But it does seem to, because they weren't in my testing, but they do seem to be enjoying themselves now. Yeah, look at this. Okay, let's see. You guys importing oil? Yes, so the oil demand to fill up these storage caverns here is now being fed by the cargo airport, which is very nice, right? This is what we wanted to happen. And it's going to sort of provide industrial functionality as well for the build today, which I wasn't really expecting because it is quite of a sort of quirky out-of-the-box build. I wasn't expecting it to be massively functional, because Peak 15 certainly wasn't. So things are happening now. The airport is coming together, I think, at least on this side. So now again, in the theme of trying to break away from that very rigid grid pattern, I want to start bringing out some curvier roads as we head away from the airfield and into sort of this vast expanse, which is very much still part of the base. But again, it's all about creating distance between kind of the main installations here. Very much so, taking inspiration again from Google Earth. And I don't think I'm totally against the inclusion of some weather radar installations out here too. Maybe go for kind of a quadrant of these. Okay, we'll certainly want to bob the horrendous vanilla palm trees off of them though. No thank you, let's get rid of those. Very nice, okay. So again, we'll get them placed with an initial frame and then we can look at some perhaps complementary assets as well. So of course it is actually a unique, so we're going to copy and paste with our friend Move It. Okay, yeah, let's have this pattern going. We'll again leave a fair amount of space between them, possibly a 30 tile frame initially. Again, so of course these are actually going to be functioning to stop meteors, which is the point of the deep space radar. But it's not what we're using it for today. I think that's quite a nice approach into the base, isn't it? Imagine these are being used to listen in on the residents of Ilos, or keep an eye out for any new alien covens that are arriving today. Which we will put an alien coven in the base today, of course. Okay, I think I'm happy with the dirt roads to be the main network in this area too. Let's see why not. Oh, we can box everyone in. And again, I think just a little sort of mini complex in the middle, perhaps a car park out here as well, for which we can have a little look at. So definitely some of the poorly maintained stuff. Let's go for a little 22 meter one. Let's bring it out by 9 units. That should be okay. And then we'll go for a bit of 8x2 parking. And then I think one of these vanilla level 3 industry factories is going to be appropriate here to almost serve as some sort of central base of operations for the radars. Okay, and we can bring this slightly off center as well, and I think a little bit of surface painter just to rid some of the concrete. And then just to add a little bit of realism, we can now feed out some of the vanilla dirt pathways and up and into each installation if we like. So they are actually kind of functional spaces, and I think plenty of the Ilos dry forest brush today is going to be our best friend. Alright, let's have a little look what we can possibly do with that. Let's move on to Ilos dry, bring down our size. There we go, and then just little sort of speckles of it in and around. Okay, touches on the outside too. Okay, and even possible further inclusion of natural disaster assets, things like the weather radar. Again, just on a little bit of a corner over here. Then I think certainly some industrial prop detailing in the form of the cargo containers. Again, it's just going to help bring home the vibes as always, right? You know, maybe they've imported some new equipment here. Okay, some new sort of anti-alien technology to stop the aliens from landing. And again, a little bit of surface paint, at least around the boundary where we have the pathway, and use that as something of a natural border for where the sort of very heavily trodden sand is compared to the natural desert. Okay. And again, I think it's something we can get on board with, right? It's very difficult for me to keep lots of open space, especially when it's sort of this obnoxious, alright? Cool. So I might spin some of these around to different orientations. Maybe even sort of snap some off onto their own little individual grids, and I'll kind of run over what I mean by that. So let's come on with some road length and angle snapping with the dirt road again. So then let's just do like another sort of main box up here, right, and maybe drag one of the installations out to its own corner, perhaps with a slightly different angle. I think I'm correct in saying that usually when you see these radars, they all point in the same direction in order to strengthen the signal. That could be wrong though. I am not an astronomer. If that's what these people do. If that's the job title. But I'm not sure. Perhaps some space nerds in the comments can let us know. Okay, so we can come up with a little vibe like this, alright? Don't all have to have them fixed rigidly in the box. Some can maybe come off on a different angle. And then we can maybe bring one off over this side as well. But I think I'm very happy with the inclusion of the space radars, especially in the approach into the base. Fantastic news. Okay. So let's head over to the other side of the airport now. And again, we're going to do a pretty similar thing with the cargo airport road. We're just going to come in and box this off against and then trim off any frames. And again, what we're seeing is the sort of taxi runways themselves are actually coming right down and close into the base, for which we're going to need to paint out our airport area again. Of course, this can all just be refined as the build comes together. Another plane coming in here now as well. Very happy with that. Fantastic news. We'll have to be careful of traffic, but I think just because of the distance they have to travel, the traffic will just be so naturally spread out anyway. It shouldn't really be an issue for us, but something to bear in mind. So, taxiways again. I want to bring these right down. Let's go for 60. Bring these in. So of course these aren't going to get used. We're very much just using the aesthetic of these. And then we're going to grab the industrial road this time. And I want to see if we can do something with actually anarchying the industrial road across the taxiway itself, and perhaps some sort of signage out here just to let people know that like you are actually crossing an active runway here, like be careful sort of thing. I think that's what I want. And again, looking at Google Earth, I'm seeing some pretty large installations that actually kind of sit between the taxiways themselves, and I don't think some of the high-tech content creator buildings would be massively out of place here, especially stuff like the fabrication plant. Okay, don't want to use all of them. I think some of them possibly are a little bit loud. Nanotechnology Centre would also work out here too. Probably alongside the electric car plant. I'm not sure. There's a couple of possibilities we can get involved with today. And then again, it looks like the sort of taxiways are continuing to expand out, and what we can see is actually a sort of lone single hangar that's just chilling by itself. So something that I want to bring in. Let's come to a road guideline so we can sort of respect this angle here. There we go. That's what we want. And then we'll place in the hangar ourselves, which we'll go with large again, and possibly include a sort of smaller parked cargo plane in here. We'll possibly go for the big ones. Yeah, such a shame that these don't function like this in the vanilla game. You can't actually put the planes in the hangars, but the World of Anarchy says otherwise. Wonderful. And then we can bring this up. Let's snap this to the road guideline of the runway now. Just connect in at 89 degrees. Pretty much 90 degrees, isn't it? You won't be able to tell in the grand scheme of things. And then just so we don't get the awkward dead end routes, make sure we spin that around. Okay. And then I think a little bit of move it to round off some of these angles. Possibly even bring this entire sort of node network a little bit closer if we wanted to. Make sure we grab all of them though. Yeah, I think I'm going to be happy with that. And again, it is sort of a vast concrete space that is very empty. It's very unnatural for me to be doing this. I love to sort of pack things with props and trees and detailing, but we have to respect the vibes. There is vast amounts of empty concrete space here, and it's really going to play into how we sort of build the airport. But we can complement again with some more airport props, especially the aviation fuel stations as well. Don't see a reason why this one wouldn't work out here. Alright, then possibly even over here as well to sit and complement the oil buildings that we've got sat over this way. So again, possibly this is the main runway, isn't it? Yeah, so let's not put them here. I think the aesthetic of some repeated aviation fuel spice against the internal road network is again going to help us detail the area. Okay, and we've got parked planes out here, so we can absolutely get on board with some local refueling stations, which I'm happy with. Again, let's continue to paint out some concrete. Now, if we come to night time here, yeah, these spaces will be near pitch black, but we definitely want some essentially sort of guidance lights, right? So we'll bring these across and possibly up as well, just using some vanilla pathway, which you can't see, but it is going to provide us with a little bit of illumination between all the larger airport assets that are starting to make up this secret military airbase now. So whilst the internal of the base continues to develop, I do actually want to head back over to the country road and start having a look at what we can do for some sort of extreme fence detailing, possibly the most amount of fence detailing we're ever likely to do in any episode we've got on the channel. And this is an extremely long stretch of the airport fence, I think. Now the fence is going to have to be important here. It would make sense because it is an airbase, right? So we can have this run all the way along, of course, as this road continues to expand throughout the city, as will the fence. And then we've actually downloaded some no trespassing signs off the workshop as well. So even though it's very small, but just occasionally we can pop in some of these little sort of no trespassing signs here as we come down this big road. Okay, and hopefully now with... Do we actually have any lights over here at night? No, we don't. That's good though. I think I'm happy with that. Okay, you can just see all the little sort of secretive operations happening over there, alright? I think that's going to be really cool as well once it surrounds the entire perimeter and leaves this enormous sort of vast empty space up to the base. Almost as like a breakwater, right? If anyone did get over the fence, they would have to cross an enormous stretch of desert in order to actually get here to discover the secrets. So again, let's also have a look at the possibility of the Area 51 coven that's going to come out here. So of course, during our detailing time lapse, we will continue to include these little sort of bunker, shelter-looking things in and around the foot of the mountain. So just at the foot of this valley, we're going to have another crash site, okay? It's going to be another crashed UFO over here. We've got our aliens, and we'll go for the naked aliens, and this one can be waving. Okay, there can be 3 waving aliens. And again, we might want to just do a little bit of gravel under these guys, because the grey doesn't stand out massively well against the sand. Okay, so there's 3 of them waving, and then also off of the workshop, we now have lots of sort of military guys here as well. Okay, so let's get some of these riflemen that have come to see what's going on. Okay, and then we also have some bodyguard props as well, which are these sort of super shady looking dudes in black suits, you know, so these are, you know, the higher ups, these are the bosses of the sort of the conduit, right? So they've come out to say, you know, who are you? Which would be my first question upon meeting an alien for the first time as well. I think. Let's also grab some lights too, okay? Maybe they've set up some sort of stadium light here. Hopefully these do work though. Yeah, so they've sort of shined a couple of lights onto the aircraft, right? They've maybe sort of fenced it off as well with perhaps a little bit of oil industry fencing in here too, okay? Sort of secured the area. Brought this around. Carry on painting out those surface painted areas too. And at night time, they're being quizzed as to what exactly is going on here. It just wants a little bit of sort of grasses around again, doesn't it? Yeah, definitely some of these just in and around this area. So it's very silly, but it's fun, right? You can add little props of sort of personality into the hillside here. All right, cool. I realise this might not be everyone's type of episode today, but you know, each of my cities has one of these things, sort of a fun little quirky build that isn't necessarily functional, even though this one is probably the most functional with the cargo airport setup and the oil buildings, so we'll see. Anyway, we'll see. Come back to the interior of the base now, and we're going to start linking all these networks together. We'll use this angle here as an excuse to bring down one of these roads again with an angle snap and let it hug this taxiway as close as possible. Yep, and then let's go for right here. We will turn off road bending, and then we can use this as kind of a natural end for the base here. So discussing what we want to do further with possible one-way systems in front of the airport now, we definitely want to continually include some more warehouses here. So again, I'm going to start bringing in some frontage networks so we can position them exactly where we want. And a unique factory probably wouldn't be the worst idea here, and you could probably get away with, you know, some of the sort of more modern looking ones. Probably not the car factory. Yeah, but certainly stuff like the sneaker factory, I think. From the oil area. Modular house is a little bit too big. But if we were just to have a look at the sneaker factory. Just have Sneaker Ridge on it, which is not amazing. I'm not entirely sure that that can be bobbed off, can it? No, I don't think it can. What does it actually want? Plastic, petroleum, paper and crops, yeah, for which we're not really making any of those at the minute besides crops. But I think I'm happy to have it included just from an aesthetic point of view. We will eventually supply it with goods to make the sneakers, but for right now, I think it's going to do what I want it to do. So I'm happy with it. Let's continue to bring in those networks around the back as well. And then that's not what we want to do here. No, let's not do that. Cool. So I think we'll actually bump the sneaker factory back onto this network. And then up and out front we will use some small warehouses here. I'm very much after sort of the stocked up yards out the front here in a repeatable pattern. So we will set these to store everything that the sneaker factory will eventually want. And we can't store crops, so you might as well just store goods for right now, whatever, okay? Cool. So again, orientation's everything, right? And I'm happy with that. I'm not entirely sure that I am. I do like the bulkiness of this asset. Okay, not bad. Let's complete the one-way loop. Now we can probably bring this back up into the airport now as well, although we do want to find the correct snap node for the airport terminal, which is there. Fantastic, and you might as well also feed out into this way. So starting to see larger frames connect now, and this is really good for just kind of placing in those sort of more chungus assets. Again, there's lots of warehouse buildings here. Okay, I don't want to be just doing warehouses everywhere though. Again, we'll go for, let's go for a plastic, sure. Yeah, it does want plastics eventually, so we'll get those warehouses pre-set up for them. So let's return to the semiconductor plant now. Complete the box around this, and then I also want to have a little look at what we can do with the police helicopter station as well, because we definitely want some helicopter sort of decals around here, right? We really want these sort of the H landing pads to come in. Now, I think I'm happy with a couple of them. Yeah, I think I am. And then definitely all these spaces where the taxiways come down, all of this is just concrete. There's no sand here. It's all been sort of tarmacked over, so let's make sure that we bring those vibes in too. At least for the most part, where we can. Okay, and again I think maybe a touch of move it just to help them sit a little more centrally within that space will help us. And then I think I'm happy to keep bringing the road in and around, because this is again going to keep some sort of texture just against that constant blanket of grey, if you like, okay? And then why don't we make sure that we're connecting in with this network here? We might as well while we're so close, right? Bring this down and across. So I think I'm happy to have the roads allocated. The traffic light isn't great. We'll probably, or the street light either. Yeah, we'll definitely want to move the street lights. But again, they're not functional, are they? I don't know. I'll definitely get some comments about that though. We'll need to probably use network skins to remove the street lights from this particular section of industrial road. Yeah, so let's go for none. Yeah, and then just upgrade these two sections of industrial road with network skins to have no traffic lights. That should get rid of them. But again, even the little buildings that are on the helicopter depots themselves are going to help add just a little sort of, again, for lack of a better phrase, sort of gentle cluster of facility, which is very much what we're trying to bring home today. So I think the final aesthetic we're going to bring in before we start to consider detailing time-lapse is sort of the main car park here, for which I think we're going to go with big parking lots and do a custom one. So again, we'll go for black asphalt, okay? It's a vibe we're seeing in Google Earth. So split that by 6. What distance are we here? That's 11. That's incredibly annoying. We can make that 12 though. Should we come out from this way? Yeah, there we go. So we can construct some sort of main car park out here. We will make these ones into border. Okay, so yeah, we've got distance of 12 there. So with big parking lots, always helpful to be moving in multiples of 3. It just makes lining up the filler roads much easier. So yeah, go for 15. So a nice big sort of black asphalt car parking space here. And just check our measurement from here to here. What was it? It was 9 units. Can we repeat that this side? Yes, we can if we turn off node snapping. There we go. And then that's fine. We'll upgrade that into the other direction here again in a minute. Again with 0 node snapping. And a nice big 30 unit. And then we can upgrade this around the back as well. Cool. Let's go ahead and grab some of our, again, sort of black asphalt fillers. This is going to be tremendous. Come back on with our snapping as well. So we'll grab some of our large curb parking as well. Start bringing these in. Imagine everyone that works here would either report to the main central car park upon arrival, and then head to the main office where they can drop off some of their papers, in which we can actually bring in some probably vanilla office assets. They're actually going to work quite nicely here. If we head into, of course, some of these, although we do have the workshop ones too, which again probably do have a place if we want to squeeze them in. I think this one's quite military looking as well, isn't it? Not entirely sure why, but could be considered. So now we've got all our spaces in, we can come through and grab some of the 4-meter curbs. I think we'll go for the sand ones. Of course, we'll remove any service panes that overlaps with them. Yeah, I'm happy with these. And then really not too much decoration with them at all. The only things we really want to do is grab some of the parking lot lights. Yeah, these ones here. And then with a little bit of prop and tree anarchy. Almost keep the car parks quite sterile in the design, right? No sort of fancy palm designs around this area. It's very much leave your car and get to work, alright? Then of course, with Move It, let's come in and grab our marquee tool, and then we'll go for nodes and props. And then with these sections now that we've already got, we can just copy the whole thing into each of these segments. And I'll also definitely want to come in as well with some containers and see what we can do with these. Let's go for, yeah, let's go for some of those. And then just start filling out some spaces with some containers, okay? Get some walkability through here and then start to introduce some of our sort of military themed props like these big trucks. Which ones are these called? Like the FMTVs. Not entirely sure what that stands for. I'm sure some military people can let me know. You know, start to bring in a couple of these and sort of flash out the vibe. We've also got some military tents in here as well. So we can get a couple of these in. We've also got some sort of guard props here as well, although I think these are actually British ones. We really want the American looking ones. Yeah, let's have a couple of little soldiers knocking around the base and then bring them over to the security checkpoint as well. Right at the start of the build. As we come out this side. How's the... Yeah, traffic's doing fine, isn't it? Oh no, tree arcing's come back on. need to get rid of the trees, of course. We can't have any cactus on road action. But otherwise, guys, that does feel like the bulk of the infrastructure in. And of course, that means it's time for a detailing time-lapse. We need to bring in the natural sort of Ilos green or desert belt, I guess, back around where we've shaved everything off because it just looks very naked at the minute. This needs to be brought back in. Continue to bring the airport-style perimeter fence around the entire complex and continue to detail with some of those little no trespassing signs. So we can drop a few of these in and around the area today too. Alongside some soldier prop detailing in and around the checkpoint, which is actually showing a German and an Italian flag in the minute for some reason. And then also develop a couple more of these little sort of silo bunker boys that are just isolated, that orbit the base in a couple of different places. And then plenty of vanilla path detailing to bring the lights between the runway and the taxiways. And also placing some more of our sort of super fast jets in and around different places, maybe some along this stretch here, where we can sort of have some fighter jet action with Ilos's super high-tech sort of air force that they clearly have. And also some of these little guard towers as well, all around the edge of the perimeter fence. Some interesting detailing to be done. So we'll see what we can do, and then hopefully come back to a more settled in conduit build. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave a dislike as well. By far and away the strangest thing I've ever tried to build. Super weird style, and it feels amazingly unnatural at leaving so much empty space between each of these kind of individual facilities and complexes that make up the conduit in Ilos. If you do think I've missed out any assets that would have worked nicely in this build, please get them down in the comments below. And as always, there was a ton of detailing that you guys wouldn't have seen. So please do hang around for the outro tag and check out the conduit as it settles into the very southwest corner of Ilos, all tucked away and private. Otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. Let's thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.